Yes.
Speaking about the power of words, I've read about the Hawaiians had riddle games or
Yes.
duels even, and it just seems kind of mind-boggling. You would riddle to a death.
Riddle to death?
To a death, yeah.
To a death? Oh, yeah. Okay. The Hawaiians of old loved riddles. They had all kinds. Children would play riddle games. The adults would just play riddle games, for the fun of it. But they sometimes took it very seriously. The great shaman figure Maui, he loved riddles, okay, as well. But there were times when there might be a contest, or there might be the riddles that were very difficult riddle that was given kind of as a challenge in order to keep people from doing something. For instance, one of the old stories has to do with a chief on the island of Hawaii, big island. Okay? And he had a daughter who was very, very beautiful, but a daughter that he didn't want to let go of. And so he devised a riddle. And the riddle had to do with naming all the parts of the body that began with a K. And so, there are a number of different parts of the body, the knuckles and the hips and things like that. So people came from all over the place to try and do the riddles, but the penalty was death if you failed. And there were people who really thought they knew the language, and they went there, and chiefs would go, and you opened up. Even commoners who had been brave in battle were allowed to participate if they wanted to, but all these great warriors and everybody was put to death by this chief because it was incomplete. And some people were even thinking that the chief was cheating, because he would say, no, you don't have them all. And they'd go away trying to figure out which one it was. And so finally, there was a young boy, and his grandmother told him to go, because she had taught him everything there was to know about the human body. And so, finally he agreed to go, because I think it was either his brother or one of his relatives who had been one of the people who was killed. So he went over there, and before he was about to play the riddle, he said, if I win, he said to the chief, we've got all these people who died before. He says, well, if I'm going to play this riddle game, I want some more out of it. He says, yes, I'm willing to take your daughter. But if I get this, after all these people that you've killed, you agree to die, and I become chief. And the chief laughed, because no one had ever gotten all of these kinds of things. Okay? So then the riddle contest started. It took a long time because there were lots of parts of the body, and surprisingly, the young boy seemed to know them all, and he named them and named them and named them and named them, and finally he named there's one small part of the body that no one had ever thought of, but the young boy knew it, and he gave the name, and the king was shocked. But according to the rules, the king was put to death, the chief was put to death, the boy got the girl and the kingdom, and of course, everybody lived happily ever after. Okay? But that's one story of how riddles could become so important. Okay? It was through a riddle that Maui got the secret of fire, according to one story. Okay? So one riddle would be a very simple one, and I think I've shared this one in here before, but so the riddles would be stated like, the word for riddle was nane, but the riddle would be stated like something like this. Somebody would say something like I'm about to say. My source, my spring of water in the air. And then the other person had to guess what that was. My spring of water in the air. And of course, sometimes because they'd play the game, you had to pay a forfeit of some kind. It usually wasn't your life, but maybe you had to give somebody a fish, or maybe you had to do a dance, or, they loved gambling in these kinds of ways. So sometimes they used the riddles for gambling. And so I don't know what, we'll pretend that you all have something that I really want, and so you'll all have to pay a forfeit if nobody can guess what my spring of water in the air is. All right, I'll tell you. That means I win a coconut. A coconut. That's right. That's my spring of fresh water in the air. Okay? So there would be things like that, you know. But riddles were very important.
So they were called nane?
Nane, yes.